the handles, hear them click. You'll never know when you'll be hit. It's Pie Face. Ask your mom for some cream. Pilot high, it's a scream. It's a game and it's new. Gets your face full of goo. It's Pie Face.
With spinner, mask, and pie thrower.
All right, everybody, welcome to Lunch Therapy. It's Interview Friday. I am so excited to be here. I've got Tommy Moore on the show, who's a veteran comedian who wrote the book Ph.D. in Happiness from the Great Comedians. That's him on the cover. This book was recommended to me by Gordon Douglas, and he was on the show, and he said this is one of my favorite books ever, and I have to concur. It is not only a historical storytelling journey through the great comedians of our time and our time before us, but it's also a tutorial on how to be happy. So everybody needs that, especially after all this crap we've been through recently. Sometimes we need to get a PhD in happiness just to counter all the unhappiness going on in the world. I'm here in beautiful Hollywood, California. Tommy Moore is in North Carolina, I believe. He's going to be coming on here. First, I want to tell you, though, I'm going to be tonight. Where I'm going to be tonight, I'm going to be at the Show and Tell Screening Spectacular 9th anniversary. This is put on by Seth Word and Kyle Helf, and I'm just lucky enough to be involved in that. We're going to be doing our short film Sag Up, which is some stand-up comedy at the Screen Actors Guild and Writers Guild strike out in front of Netflix. Happy Commando Friday, Jose, great to see you. So tonight, if anybody wants to come, be our guests at the Screening Spectacular 9th anniversary, let me know, DM me or IM me or send me a carrier pigeon, whatever it is, and I'll try and get you in because I think it's going to be super fun. There's going to be great it's all films, short films, some of the best filmmakers in Los Angeles, all comedy, and we love comedy here. So let's get into this thing called Lunch Therapy. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 Yep, there's the book. Interview Friday, Tommy Moore. One more thing about the Screening Spectacular, it's also online. So if you can't make it to the actual event, you can watch it online. There's a link in the show notes. There is also a link to this book, Ph.D. in Happiness from the Great Comedians. He's got 2 other books. Anyway, check this out. I am a big fan. I'm super excited. We've got Bloss here as well. He's in the co-pilot seat. Let's get into this thing. Let's move it along. Where is the lunch? Lost. You had lunch last show. You had some sushi. Remember that? I can't hear you, man. I can't hear you. Maybe it's maybe you're in the green room. Maybe Boney, could you get his audio working? I don't know. I can't. Boney, are you there? Boney.
Wait, we're having some technical difficulties right now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I guess we're having some technical difficulties. Anyway, it's great to see you, Bloss. I'm glad to see you have a shirt on. We're in the crazy ship that we had last week, which is one of my favorite steampunk ships. You can fly. Yeah, if you can't talk, you can fly. We're going to get into the breathing here. We've got something called healing vibrations. If you've seen the show, then you know all about that. And yeah, I don't know why I can't hear Bloss, but you know it. You can breathe even if we can't hear you. Sign language. All right, so we're gonna breathe. I'm a little hopped up as usual on Interview Friday because I get all excited about the guest, and I've been spending the whole week reading this book, and it's just like it's better than caffeine. I'll tell you that. Better than caffeine. You know what also is better than caffeine? I've got my mime friend over there, is breathing. Breathing. Behind me, there's some quotes. You can feel free to read them. They're from our friends at Healing Vibrations. Let the vibrations guide you. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Bloss's wife Celia was on the show prior to the show. She got his computer up and running. I should have checked the audio with her. This is my fault. Sorry, Boney. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. This is something we do at the top of every show. For 481 shows, we've done this, I believe, almost every time. It works every time. It's the magic. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. One of the things I also want to mention is the dance break. I usually don't say who's going to be playing at the dance break, but I'm so excited about this. Our very own Richard Gadas is going to be singing the dance break today. I don't even know if he knows. Hopefully Bloss texted him. I don't know, but it's pretty exciting. So I'm going to do the little intro, and then we're going to bring on our guest, Tommy Moore. I hope everybody is all loosened up. I am. Bloss, you good? Thumbs up? Right on. All right, let's get into this thing. Okay, my friends. I have a clown behind me because, once again, we have a clown on the show. Not only a stand-up comedian, not only a journalist, but a clown. And we've had some of the great clowns on the show. We've had Vernus Clear. We have Joel Jeske on the show. We had Gayla Johnson, who was a clown before she was a comedian. A lot of comedians were clowns before they were comedians, and a lot of comedians are clowns. I think being a clown is I think it's one of the most noble professions in the world. And our guest today is not only a clown, but he's headlined in over 1,000 club shows and had over 150 television appearances on the likes of ABC, CBS, PBS, Showtime. He's done over 500 appearances in Vegas, at Caesar's Palace, Bally's, the Golden Nugget, Harrah's, the Sands, Tropicana. And he does corporate shows for AT&T, American Express, Coca-Cola, Blue Shield, Sony, the Iron Workers of America. I mean, if you can make the Iron Workers of America laugh, you can make anybody laugh, I think, right? He has appeared with Steve Allen, Alan King, Joan Rivers, Shecky Green, Soupy Sales. These are like the legends of comedy. And he's written 3 books. I'm doing it the European way here. A Ph.D. in happiness from the great comedians, which I foretold of. Joke Telling 101, Comedians Telling Tales, And he had his own newspaper column for 11 years. And this is a big one. He contributed to Mad Magazine. Yes, I grew up on Mad Magazine. I'm sure many of us did. Yeah, anybody that contributed to that is on my top 10 list. He was professor of comedy at Temple University, a professor. And he's done fundraising shows for muscular dystrophy with Jerry Lewis, the Special Olympics, the Elks, the Moose Lodge, the Knights, the Eagles Lodges, and the USO in England, Iceland, Germany, Belgium, Wales, and the Netherlands. I know this is a long intro, but I just want you to understand, we got a veteran comedian on this show today, and we're going to learn something. He's also, of course, like I said, the clown and co-founder of the Moore Regional Hospital Clowns, visiting over 1,500 patients a year. Ladies and gentlemen, the professor of fun on Interview Friday.
When you're having a banquet, you want your crowd to have fun. And that's a guarantee with the professor of fun, Tommy Moore. Thousands have seen him on cruise ships.
Let's have a nice round of applause, and once again, a very special welcome, because this is Mr. Tommy Moore!
In casinos around the country.
And our comedy stars, Mr. Tommy Moore!
At the nation's top resort hotels.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tommy Moore!
Hello, let's hear it for Wendy, yeah?
At corporate shows, in theaters, and on TV. Because he makes every show a party and every party fun.
Oh, yeah. Woo! All right, Tommy Moore, yeah.
Hey,
How
did
about
I
that?
do all that?
You did all that.
No wonder I'm tired. I gotta take a nap. Hold on.
You must be
Those quick
exhausted.
naps are great. Okay.
Yeah, it's great
good
to have
be
you
here.
on the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thank
All
you,
right,
thank you.
I'm so
And
happy.
you know, I gotta
to
tell
have
you,
yeah.
you told me that there are a lot of comedians who watch this. This is the greatest job in the world. I mean, think about it. You work an hour a night. You're surrounded by people who are laughing and happy. You're at a party. You're the center of attention. They applaud you. They pay you money. And there's no heavy lifting.
Oh yeah, it's not like being in a band. Being in a band, you got to carry all that equipment.
Oh, yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So
But
true.
yeah, I've been doing this a long time because I'm an old guy. I'm old. I admit it. My last birthday cake, there were 12 candles on my piece. Okay?
I love it.
I'm
So-
old. But I now do senior.
Yeah, the crowd's going wild.
Wait for the applause. I now do senior citizen affairs where the people are older than me in the audience. I mean, I do the senior citizen condos, and like these people are old. I mean, it's like 100-year-old people.
How old are they?
100-year-old people and their parents. Okay,
And their
These
parents.
people- and their parents. Yeah, these people are old. I mean, I did one show. The average age of the audience was deceased. You don't put a glass of water down, you can back there's teeth in it. Okay. But they're active. I had one couple, 80, 85. They just got married. 80, 85, they spent their honeymoon getting out of the car. Okay? But they're...
I love the one about what's the thing? Let's go upstairs and make love. The wife says, "Let's go upstairs and make love," after they got married. And then he says, "Wait a minute. Which one do you want? Go up the stairs or
There you
make
go.
love?"
There you go. There you go.
Something like that.
But they're great. They're great seniors. Seniors are terrific. They're a great laugher. They have great attention span. and sometimes you can go to the same place a week later and they forgot all the jokes, so you can do them again.
That's perfect. Do you think people like me could go and do stand up or at homes like that, senior centers, or do you think only
You
people that
could,
would really identify with them?
as long as you had the right material,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as you were nice, because they look at you and they see their grandkids, and they want their grandkids to be nice. So if you're nice and you've got clean, funny material, yeah, they're the greatest. They're the greatest. They really
So
are.
one of the things you said about, at the very beginning, you said this is the greatest business ever. Has it always been a business for you? Because a lot of comedians, they can't figure out how to make it a business.
Well, yeah, it's always been a bit. First of all, I watched your video. You're very funny. And
Thank you.
one of the things you say in the video is that you have to have a backup career. I have no backup career. I've
Yeah.
never had a backup career.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 50 years. And I went to college and I got my BA in elementary ed, but I knew the first week that I student taught that this was not for me, because the kids make you nuts. Because kids say they're more intelligent than we are. They really are. I said to one kid, arithmetic lesson, I said, if you had 50 apples in one hand and 50 apples in the other hand, what would you have? He said, very big hands. They make you crazy. I said to the kid, if you had $5 and you asked your father for $5, what would you have? He said, $5. I said, you don't know your arithmetic. He said, you don't know my father. So I knew that right away teaching was not for me. And I said, if I can get 20 kids attention all day, I can get 500 people's attention for an hour. And I don't have to work all day. I just work 1 hour and I leave, and it's all fun. It's the greatest job in the world, I'm telling you.
There are a lot of teachers that become comedians too, from what I understand.
Sure. Yeah.
And
It's an easy transition.
Yeah, I mean, they have
easy.
to entertain all day. So like they're an hour. Wow, this is like a day off.
It's true. It's true. It's
so
true.
Great.
And
So you're my new idol, though. You're my new idol because I'm like, you know what? I got to make a living out of this thing. What am I doing? And did you start? Like, how did it start for you? I hate to go all the way back to the very beginning of this thing, but I would love to know like how this started for you and how you viewed it at that time, and also what the environment was like.
Okay. I started as a little kid. I watched the Ed Sullivan Show, which at that time was the biggest show on TV. And he would have comedians and magicians and jugglers. And I heard that the comedian came on and did 6 minutes and made $5,000. I said, this is the job for me.
Yeah.
And I watched comedians religiously from that minute. I remember when I was like 5 years old, it was my birthday party, and all my aunts and uncles were there, and they brought out the cake with the candles, and I heard that comedian Jack Carter was coming on to being introduced. And I just said, wait a minute, I got to go see this. And my uncle said, what kind of kid stops his own birthday party to go watch a comedian?
Yeah.
That's when they knew I was like demented, But as a kid, I did everything because I didn't know how to be a comedian, but I was a puppeteer, which is easy because you can hide behind puppets.
Oh, yeah.
I was a ventriloquist because you've got a team member.
Yeah.
I was a clown. I was a magician for a while.
Did you ever have nerves? Like, did you feel like you had to hide behind something to perform?
I knew I had to hide behind the fact that I didn't have any talent yet. Okay. So I hid behind that. But no, nerves I've never had. The only thing I get nervous is if the check doesn't clear the bank. Then I get nervous. Otherwise, no nerves.
I think in the book, though, you said something about hyperventilation or something like that. Like you had maybe breathing, like some.
Well, yeah. When I was in high school, and I had to do presentations that didn't have laughs in them, I would hyperventilate because I wasn't connecting. I was like, no, I can't do this. I got to have a laugh every 10 seconds or I'm going nuts.
I remember that in German class, we had to say a poem. And I got up to do the poem and everybody laughed, but it was kind of a serious poem. And my teacher was like, see, Joel, you're joking around all the time. And when you try and do something serious, everybody laughs. And I was like, Yeah, that's because
That's
I've been
good.
doing this poem all week for everybody.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
I
funny.
mean, instead, I, to please my parents, I got good marks.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I never read a book. I never read a school book. I would skim it real
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
Then I would go to a joke book and I would memorize the jokes. I have over 800 joke books that I've read and memorized, and that's the only thing that ever interested me, ever. Now you say that I make it a business. Yeah, I started charging, doing kids parties when I was 9, and the
When you
kids
were
were 5.
9,
When I was 9, and I charged $10.
it's
But the
more
good
than
thing
some of the
was,
adult comedians charge.
there you go.
Now.
The good thing was kids parties were always in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the alternative for a 9-year-old kid was to deliver newspapers, and you had to get up at 6 in the morning. And I said, no. I want to sleep till noon. That's why I want to be in show business.
I
And
love
so I
that
would
too.
do kids parties, and you make $10. You do your little puppet show, and then I did magic shows with kids parties, and then I said, but no, I really want to be a comedian. That's what I want to be. So by the time I was like 21, 22, I was doing it professionally for money. And by the way, when we mention money, everybody comes on and they try to sell something. We're going to try to sell the book. That's it. But I'm the only person that's going to tell you not to buy something. Let me show you this.
Oh.
This was me when I was 27. This is my first album.
Oh man. Is that you?
That's
Good to
me.
hear.
Do not buy this album.
I
Do not-
saw
it is
that
not good.
on YouTube.
If you see it in a used record store, if you see it on eBay, do not buy it. It's not good. This is not a good album. Don't buy it.
I'm going to buy it. I'm going to put it on the wall.
No, this album sold 4 copies. Okay. My mother
I
bought
got to
one.
hear that. I got to hear that
My
album.
mother bought one. My father bought one. I bought one, and a lady in St. Louis went into a record store, picked one up, dropped it. They made it pay for it. Okay.
Can you put that full screen so we can see it? Oh, that's the other one. Oh, this is the one to buy?
No, don't buy this one. This is my second album.
Oh, that's your
okay,
second
don't buy
album.
this one either. This didn't do as well as the first album. This album sold no copies. Wasn't my fault. The company that made it forgot to put a hole in the middle. Okay, so it didn't sell as an album. But if there's ever a market for black frisbees, I'm going to make a fortune.
All right.
Do not buy these albums. Okay, all right. But yeah, I
That's
started
great.
making a living at this at about age 21, before there were comedy clubs, and there were a lot of like mob joints,
Yeah.
and you would go in and guys with a nose like this,
Yeah.
and there was always like a statue of Venus de Milo to give it some class in the
Yes.
room. And the arms are broken, and later found out the owner broke the
Did I hear
arms
myself?
just to keep in
I hear
practice.
myself, right?
Okay?
That's
What?
hilarious. Oh, Blas is talking for some reason. Blas, what are you saying? You're working
can-
now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh. I'm so sorry, Tommy. Please continue.
Try to keep it to
But
a
no.
minimum, Blas. No, I'm just kidding.
I work those mob clubs, and I mean, you go in and the guy's got a voice. Hey, come here, kid, come up. Oh, I got to tell you a story. This is not me. This was another comedian working at the time. True story.
Yeah.
Okay. Copacabana. Jules Podell, rough guy. Comic walks in, and Jules Podell says, "Hey, kid, are you funny?" And he was so scared. He said, "No, Mr. Podell, no, I'm not." And Podell walked away. And the kid went up and did 15 minutes. And he was so scared, he didn't get one laugh.
Oh
Not
man.
one. And when he walked over, Podell crooked his finger and said, "Come here, kid." And he put him in a headlock. And he said, "I like you, kid. You keep your word."
Oh man. Oh no. How do you deal with things like that though? Like setbacks, like when you make an album and even your parents don't buy it because it doesn't have a hole in it. How have you dealt with that in your career? Like do you
You know
does it
what?
bounce around in your head or what?
Want to talk about therapy? Here's therapy.
Yeah.
One word therapy. Next.
Yeah, that's what they say in football too.
What's
When you miss a pass, the best ones are the ones with the worst memory. You know, the best
right.
receivers.
Yeah. Just next. Now, all right, I'll tell you a story. I'm going to tell a story
Yeah.
to talk about. So I made these 2 albums.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought the Billboard guide for acts. And it had the acts, and it had their managers and agents. And I'm looking, and here are all the great names, Bob Hope, Jerry Lewis. And I go down to the M's, and there's a Tommy Moore.
Oh,
There's another guy
another
with
one. Oh,
another.
no.
My 2 albums are garbage now because there's another guy. And I literally was holding back tears. And then I looked at the management, and it was my manager.
You were them. Oh my God, yes.
I'm on the same page with Bob Hope and Jerry Lewis.
I love
You
that.
know? So, you hang in there. Even when you think it's going to be rough, you hang in. I had a comedy club for 11 years. When we started, nobody came. And funny about 11, we had 11 comedians. We called ourselves the Funny 11. And we had the comedy club, and nobody came. We would stand outside the club, the comedians, in a line to make it look like we're customers waiting to go in.
Really?
And people would see us and say,
I love
"Oh,
that.
there's a line for this place. Maybe it's good." And they would get in line. And then when it's 20, 30, 40, by the time there were 50 people, we unlocked the door, went in, they never knew it was us.
I love that. You're priming the pump.
Oh, yeah. We were charging 99 cents to get in. And we would get like 200 people, and we would divvy up the money between us. So, yeah, it was a business from the beginning. Yeah.
I love what this person from Twitch said. They said, everyone fails, everyone's going to bomb. If you're about that life, it's a lesson, but it's just another day.
That's right. In the beginning, you're going to bomb a lot until you find yourself.
Yeah.
Finding yourself is important. I did the family comedy hour with Jay Leno.
Yeah.
And he told me how important it was to find yourself. The way you find yourself is to make a list of all the things that make you you. But because we're talking about therapy, make a list of all the things that make you happy.
That's good.
And you won't think about the other things. Think about the things that make you happy. Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." Once in high school, a teacher said, what he meant by that was, if a person thinks, then therefore they exist. And you only exist if you think. And I said, no. He said, what do you mean, no? You're saying Descartes was wrong? I said, yeah. I said, there's a chair. Does the chair think? No, but it exists. I said, what Descartes was saying was, as you think, therefore you are. In other words, if you think happy thoughts, you're happy. If you think angry thoughts, you're angry. If you think worried thoughts, you're worried. So think happy thoughts. Peter Pan said it first, think happy thoughts. Okay? That's what we do when we're kids and we're unencumbered. Peter Pan was the ultimate kid. There was a great line in the musical Peter Pan that said, growing up is awfuler than all the awful things that ever were. I'll never grow up, never grow up. You got to be a kid. Kids are much happier than adults. You got to go back to being a kid. Write down all the things that made you happy as a kid, all the things that make you happy now, and think about those things, and you will be happy.
I love how last week on the show we were putting down Peter Pan, and today we're lifting him up. It's great. We're celebrating him now.
There you go.
That's so great. I love it. Let's see what this person said again. Very Lenin-esque, his answer of wanting to be happy when he grows up, and the teacher saying he didn't understand the question. He says, you don't understand life.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
That's great.
It's funny, the meaning of life. In the book, I talk about the meaning of life. To know, to love, to serve. That's the meaning of life. And the other half of the meaning of life is to be known, to be loved, and to be served. And comedians do that. When we go on stage, we're serving the public. We're
Yeah.
making them laugh. And they reciprocally are serving us because they're giving us this. They're giving us
Yeah.
applause. They're giving us acceptance. And that's what life is all about, helping each other, helping each other.
I think also if you put the attention out there, there's less attention on yourself and worrying about yourself. You know what I mean? If you're just like,
Yeah.
how do you deal with, do you like to get, if people come up to you after the show and try and give you feedback, do you like that, or what do you do with it?
Oh, sure. You
Yeah.
know, this has happened to every comedian that ever was. You'll do a show and someone will come up and say, boy, I had a really rough day. And you made me laugh.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It happens to all of us at one time or another.
Mhm.
And that's the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
The greatest feeling in the world.
Mhm.
And then other people will come and say, I got a joke for you. And it's such a filthy joke. There's no way you could ever tell it. But it's funny and you laugh.
Yeah.
No, I love it. All right, I'm going to tell. I wasn't going to tell a story. I tell a story. Okay.
Yeah.
I had never worked at Catskills
Mhm.
because I was a Philadelphia comedian for most of my life. Philadelphia, South Jersey. I did the Poconos. Okay. But if you're a comedian, you want to do the Catskills, just say I did the Catskills. So I told my agent, book me in the Catskills. Okay. Went to the Pines Hotel, 1,500 people. I got there early. In the afternoon, there was a gathering of the people where they did a customer talent show.
Mhm.
And the people just sang and danced, told some jokes,
Yeah.
And at the end, the social director said, and tonight we have a 22-piece band and a comedian. And the whole lobby went, boo.
Oh, no.
What? I went to the social director. I said, what is wrong? Why? I'm the comedian. Why did the, he said, you can go home. You might want to go home. Yep. I said, what? He said, they don't want to commute. They don't want to see you. They don't want to hear you. I said, why? What? He said, we had a comedian Monday that was so dirty, they all walked out. We had a comedian Tuesday. I told him to be clean. He was clean, but he wasn't funny. Half of them walked out. They do not want to see a comedian. I said, trust me, we'll be okay. All right. For the rest of the day, every time I bumped into him in the hallway, he would say, really, you can go. We'll pay you. Don't. I said, we'll be okay. I know what to do for these people.
Yeah.
I took him in the back right before they even opened up the door. And I opened up my suitcase with my props. And I said, you see these props? I'm not going to use any of them. Not one. Because that's not the act that they like. I know what to give them. Okay?
Yeah.
I went around the front. They opened the doors. Here's like 1,500, whatever it was, 2,000. And they're all giving me attitude. They're like, you better be good. You better be cleaner. We're going to walk out.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't worry. We're going to have fun. We're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Now I went on and I did my 45 minutes and I got a standing ovation. Now I ran around to the front as fast as I could to shake every one of their hands, especially the ones that gave me the most grief, and they said, you saved this place from a lawsuit because we were going to sue them for the caliber of entertainment that they've had.
Whoa.
They said, you saved it. And so I worked at Pines Hotel for the last 3 years that they were open.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story. I love that. We're going to play a little bit of your comedy here, a little stand-up, for fun.
I'm in the circus, and Circus ran an ad in the paper. Said, wanted a gorilla. A guy showed up. They said, you got a gorilla? He said, no, but I got a gorilla suit. I need a job bad. Here's what I'll do. I'll put on the gorilla suit. I'll jump around in the cage. I'll eat a banana. They'll never know it's not a gorilla. They said, we'll give you a try. He's there a whole day. He's jumping around. He's scratching. He's eating a banana. He climbs a tree. The limb breaks on a tree. He lands in the lion's den. He panics. He goes over to the bars. He says, let me out. Let me out. I'm not a gorilla. The lion runs over, jumps on him and said, shut up. You're going to get us all fired.
I love that. That's
And yeah,
so
I
good.
do. It's funny. I do what they call street jokes. I do a few of them in my act,
Yeah.
which every
What do they
comedian
call 'em?
says you should
What kind of
never.
jokes? What kind of
Street
jokes?
jokes. Street jokes are jokes that average people tell on the street,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
that one.
Yeah.
A story about a gorilla. Yeah, okay, as opposed to more Jerry Seinfeld
Yeah.
observational stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I do like 12 different kinds of comedy in my act. I do street jokes, I do observations, I do one-liners, I do stories, I do hats, I do props, I do improv, I do sing-along, I do puppets. If you don't like what I'm doing in 2 minutes, I'll be doing something completely different, so hang in there. Okay?
I love
Now,
that.
the
Yeah.
reason I do street jokes is that's what people bring away with them. They walk away saying, "Oh, I remember that joke about the gorilla," and they may tell it to somebody tomorrow. And that's what you can do as an average person. Tell somebody a joke.
Yeah.
Tell them a joke, and you've just given them a 1 minute vacation. Okay?
Yeah.
Milton Berle taught me this. He said, vacations, people wait all year for it. You tell them a joke, not only do you give them a 1 minute vacation, because when you're telling them a joke, they're not thinking about their problems, their worries, their troubles, their frustrations. And when you tell them a joke, you're not thinking about your problems either. So you
Yeah.
both get a 1 minute vacation by telling what is called a street joke. Duck walks into a bar kind of
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
So don't discount those because they work.
Oh yeah, we love those on this show too. Every once in a while, we'll tell a joke about the duck. We have a duck joke that we tell. Okay, so I want to ask you though. We were talking about finding yourself, and there's a quote in your book, and it's in the chapter about Joey Bishop, and it's
Okay.
about this woman that wanted to be barefoot when she sings.
Yeah.
She's like,
Okay.
should I?
So-
She's gonna be on TV, and she's like, should I wear shoes or should I be barefoot? And he
Right.
said, she said, should I be barefoot? He told her yes, because if you do things the way you want to do them, you run only one risk, that the people won't like you. But if you do things the way you think they want you to do them, you run two risks. One, they still won't like you, and you'll always wonder if it would have been better to do it your way. And number two, that they will like you and you'll be stuck doing it their way forever just to please them.
Right. That's
Is that
right.
what you mean about like finding yourself and finding your own
Yeah.
voice? Yeah.
Yeah. The key is be yourself. Joey Bishop and I come from the same neighborhood. And he said an Italian man once told him, "You do what you be."
You do
And
what
that's
you
just
be.
like, you do what you be. And that's just like Shakespeare saying, "To thine own self be true." And we came
Yes.
that it was a rough South Philly neighborhood where people were characters. I mean, you heard things in those neighborhoods you didn't hear anywhere else, like two guys talking in a corner, and one said, "Ain't it a shame what happened to Al?" The other guy said, "Shut up, it ain't till tomorrow."
That's great.
But Joey Bishop said, yeah, be yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever the middle two letters of the word comedy spell me, M-E.
Mm-hmm.
Put me up on that stage.
How personal do you get in your comedy? A lot of times these days with comedians, they get extremely personal. How personal do you get? Like with your life?
Okay. First of all, you got to explain who I am. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a variety comedian. I go back to Ed Sullivan. When I was a kid watching Ed Sullivan having magicians and comedians and impressionists and singers, I said, that's who I am. That's who I am. I don't really talk about who I am as a person
Mm-hmm.
because that's boring. I talk about who I am as a comedian.
Yeah, as
I
a
talk
comedian.
about who I am. Plus the fact, Don Rickles told me this a long time ago. I did a TV show with him. He said his father gave him the best advice you could ever give. And that is be different. Now, there are a million comedians out there today doing observations. Here's what happened to me today. Here's what happened to me yesterday. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be different.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't do that kind of stuff. I did that kind of stuff. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. I did that kind of stuff for the first 4 or 5 years of my act. And I was okay. I was a decent middle.
Yeah.
All right. But I wasn't having any fun because I wasn't being me. I wasn't being who I wanted to be. I wanted to be a variety vaudeville performer. And one night I just took the leap and I chucked my old act and I did what I really wanted to do. And it worked so well that the next day the phone was ringing like crazy and I was a headliner.
Wow. That's a great story too, because one of the things when I was looking for a picture of you for the thumbnail of this show, I could not find a serious one anywhere, or even a moderately serious one.
No.
I love the fact that your willingness to be the fool, to be a fool, and because I think a lot of times as comedians, we're trying to be, we fall into this trap of trying to be cool, like we don't want to do an act out because we'll look foolish. Well, that's our job, really.
Yep.
And we look at comedians like George Carlin or somebody, and we're like, I want to be, super insightful and know everything like George Carlin. When sometimes we just need to make people laugh. I remember when I was a kid, when I was younger, and I did shows at elementary schools, just falling down was the highlight of the show.
Oh yeah.
So how do you feel about that? Like this idea of like trying to be cool. How do you let go of that? How did you find yourself in that way?
Going back to, I wanted to be a clown type comedian.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a variety comedian. That's what I wanted to be. And you always got to follow what you want. Don't do what people tell you to do. They don't make it. I was on a TV show with Joan Rivers.
Yeah.
And she gave me great advice. I told her, I said, they're making me crazy. One agent is saying you should do this kind of stuff. Another agent is saying you should do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She said, don't listen to anybody but the audience. When the audience laughs, that's the kind of stuff you should do, period.
Yeah.
And I found out that when I did the variety type stuff, the audience laughed a lot louder, a lot longer, and it turned me into a headliner. I'll tell you a quick story. There was this one, I had become a headliner for about a month.
Yeah.
And there was this one agent who had 4 rooms. And and he said, no, when you start with me, you start as the MC. I said, but I'm a headliner. Yeah. He said, you start with me, you start as an MC. Well, he had 4 rooms. I said, okay, I'll start as an MC. I started the show, and right up front, there was a table with one guy sitting in and like 5 empty chairs. And I didn't address it because I'm not a Don Rickles type guy.
Yeah.
And about 2 minutes into my act, the one guy who was sitting there got up and ran out and brought the other 5 people in immediately, and they sat down. And okay. When I walked off stage, the manager of the room said, can you do 45 minutes? I said, yeah. He said, tomorrow night you headline. Now,
wow. Yeah.
Now, when it was over, I had to go up to the one guy who ran out and say, what was that about?
Yeah.
He said, we come here every week, me and my 5 friends. And my 5 friends stay at the back bar because the first act always sucks.
So he went to go find his friends.
He said, I saw you. I ran out and I told them, the first act doesn't suck. And they all came in. I was really thinking of naming my first book, The First Act Doesn't Suck.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so that's interesting because finding, your unique voice is a combination of what you like to do and also the response that you get, and hopefully they go together.
Yeah. And you know what? If you do what you like to do, most likely it'll work because the essence of the word funny is fun. When you're having fun, they sense it and they have fun too.
That's exactly
when you're up there worried and nervous and full of angst and trying to prove something and trying to shove something down somebody's throat. They're not going to, if you're having fun, they're going to have fun.
Have you ever had a joke that you really love, but it doesn't get the response that you want it to get, and you don't want to
Oh.
let it go?
Oh,
Have you ever had that?
I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
When I first started, I only had 5 minutes. Everybody's
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, 5
Yeah.
minutes. There was one line I loved. It was an intelligent line. It was a clever line. It never got a laugh. But I loved that line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to keep it in because that was my favorite line. And I kept it in for about a month and it never got a laugh. And I didn't care because that was my favorite line. I'm going to keep it in. And one night, I mean, everything else I did got a laugh. That one line never got a laugh.
Mhm.
One night I went out, nothing got a laugh.
Nothing got a laugh.
Nothing. And in my head, I'm like, I'm coming up on this line.
Yeah.
Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I did it. It got the biggest laugh of the night and nothing else to laugh. And I said to that line, you got your laugh. I'm retiring you now. I'm never going to do it again.
I love that. I love that.
Can you hear me, Joe?
Story about the guy, Jewish guy, goes into the police station. Says, my wife is trying to poison me, my wife is trying to poison me, my wife is trying to poison me. They said, calm down, relax, we'll question your wife, we'll get back to you. Next day they call him up. They said, Mr. Levine, we talked to your wife for 3 hours. Take the poison.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
You know what?
Classic.
Yeah. Hold for the applause.
Because this is therapy, let me give
Yeah.
you a few therapy tips that I got from comedians, okay?
Yes.
George Burns, great old comedian,
Yeah.
just said, I do this because it's what I love. Find out what you love and do it. Whether you got to do it for money or for free, do what you love and you will be happy. I said, do you have any other advice for somebody getting into show business?
Yeah.
And he said, yes. Never leave your wallet in the dressing room.
George Burns. Yeah, go ahead.
George Burns told me that Jack Benny, who was a dear friend of his,
Yeah.
Jack Benny once came up to him and said, I just had the greatest glass of water I ever had in my life. And he was waiting for a punchline.
Yeah.
And there was no punchline. That was it. Jack Benny would savor things like a glass of water. Can you imagine how happy you could be if you could savor the simplest of things? A sandwich, a song. That's another thing, a song, okay? So many of today's songs are lyrics that will put you in a state of angst like you wouldn't believe. Find the songs that make you happy.
You mentioned Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. If you want to
Yes.
see paradise, simply look around and see it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's such a great thing. I never really even realized that's so wise, you know? It's there.
And we have Alexa now and Sirius, and you can say, Sirius, play Louis Prima if that's songs that make you happy. You don't have to listen to what's on the radio. You can pick anything you want. Play the songs that make you happy. Do the things that make you happy. There are so many ways to be happy.
You're so wise. How did you meet all the comedians that you've met? Was it like backstage or what? Or how did you meet all these people?
No, most of them. I had a newspaper column for 11 years called Comedy Corner. And I interviewed every comedian on the East Coast at one time or another. So I got to meet them and talk to them. And, when they hear you're a comedian too, they open up. they say things that they wouldn't have said to maybe a reporter. And it just got me to read, that's what the third book is about, comedians telling tales out of school. Things that I couldn't fit into my column because they're long stories, I put in the third book. And the second book, Joke Telling 101, was how I taught people how to do stand-up at Temple University. I was teaching at Temple University for 5 years, and I turned a few comedians on to doing it full time, but even the ones who didn't learned how to tell a story over the table at dinner, learned how to make people laugh just socially. And it's such a great social tool.
Yeah.
Whether you're trying to make a friend or trying to make a sale, if you can learn to tell a joke and make people laugh, they love you. Think about it. I bet you remember every family member you ever had that made you laugh.
Totally. My Uncle Bob, he was just hilarious 24/7. Yeah, it was just really great to be around. Really fun person. Let's look at some more comedy here. This is a good one.
A commercial for every party or body. And I like the retro commercials. You ever see them on Nick at Night? Things like Ring Around the Collar. You ever see that? Where the kids are singing, ring around the collar, ring around the collar. And the husband always looks at the wife and says, why can't you get my collars clean? Just once I'd like to see her say to him, why don't you wash your neck? And then the kids see everything and they want everything they see. So the story about the two little kids. Two little boys, 5 and 3, walk into the drugstore, walk up to the druggist. The 5-year-old speaks. He says, Mr. Druggist man, I would like some Tampax. Drug said, what? He said, I would like some Tampax. Drug said, who they for, your mother? He said, no, they're for my brother. Drug said, how old's your brother? He said, he's 3. Drug said, what's he going to do with him? Kid said, I don't know, but we saw on TV, if you got Tampax, you could swim, ride a bike, and ride a horse. And he don't know how to do none of them now. She's explaining to him again. All right.
That was hilarious. What is your process for writing jokes? I know for one thing, you're just a studier of jokes, but when you write a joke, do you sit down and write a joke? Do they come to you? What's your process?
No, not only do I sit down and write a joke, but for instance, the joke about the little kid, the two little kids in the pharmacy.
Yeah.
In this book, I go line for line how I wrote the joke and how to tell the joke, line for line. And people say, I've had magicians come up to me and say, wow, I did this joke that I heard and I did it tonight on stage. I didn't get a laugh. I said, well, before you did it on stage, how many times did you do it? He said, well, nothing. I just heard it and I did it. Yeah. I said, would you buy a magic trick? And before you practiced it 100 times, would you go on stage and do it? No. I said, then why wouldn't you give the same respect to a joke? Okay? When I write a joke, when I tell a joke, I will listen on a recorder to how I'm telling the joke. And I'll listen again and again and again. How can I edit it? How can I give it more rhythm? How can I give it more oomph? I will do it again and again and again until I find exactly how I'm comfortable with it. And when you find out how it's always comfort. It's always comfort for you. If you go out and buy a $500 suit and you're not comfortable in it because you're worried that you're going to get it dirty or you're not going to look good in it. You could buy a $100 suit, and if you're comfortable in it, you're going to look good in it. So whatever material you do, make sure you're comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. That's the most important performing technique I could give you.
Wow.
And that's it. I mean, you want to talk happiness in life. Make sure what you're doing in life is something you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So many people are regimented and forced to do things they don't want to do. Find out what you want to do and do that. It may not make you as much money as something else, but you know what? You're going to be happier.
That is
You're
so
going to be
important because we look at sometimes with Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff these days, we look at the other people out there and we're like, oh, I should be doing that. I should be doing that. And for some reason, you don't have the inclination to do it. But you tell yourself, oh, I need to do this. But, you got to listen to what you want to do. Like you said.
That's right.
This person speaks to what you said just really quickly. I met one of my favorite comedians in Iraq during his USO tour. He sat next to me in the back of the chow hall where we were because we were so dirty and gross. He honestly looked worse than we did. Relatability made me love him more.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's
How about
good.
that?
That's
Yeah.
yeah. I did the USO. I did USO tours in England, Germany, Wales, Netherlands. Where else? I don't know.
Wow.
But
Iceland.
these
Did you say Iceland?
Iceland. Yeah, Iceland. And these service people need to laugh so badly. There were some of them who, on their day off, would follow us on the bus to see the same show again.
Wow.
And
Didn't
it
someone
was
tell
just-
you to do USO shows like Bob Hope or somebody like that?
Yeah, Bob
you
Hope
gotta
said,
do
do
this?
USO shows. It'll be rewarding like you don't believe. And he was absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'll tell you a story about a USO show I did in Wales. Now, it was a very small base in Wales.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a facility to do a show.
Mhm.
And so we did the show in a pub in Wales.
Yeah.
There were 5 comedians. I was headliner. And the owner of the pub came up and said, listen, fellas, I got to tell you, there are only a few service people here. Most of them are my normal customers, born and raised in Wales. They may not get your American sense of humor.
Right.
They may not understand your references.
Be
Just
concerned.
do what you do
Yeah.
and don't worry about it. So I huddled the other comedians in the parking lot. I said, look, if it's not going well, just cut your time. Don't worry. Just bail. Instead of doing 10 minutes each, do whatever you want to do. I'll do 45 minutes at the end. Because my act is, as you saw on stage, props and magic and hats and costumes and more than just jokes. And so that's what happened. They all cut their time. And I did 45 minutes and it went great. And the owner came up to me afterwards with the weirdest compliment ever.
Yeah.
He said, mate, you're okay. You're not like an American. He said, you're like a musical guy. You're
was
like a
like
musical.
that Joan Rivers quote you had in your book where they were like, she was like, the lady came up to her afterwards and said, all the other, you were so funny. And all the other performers had such talent and you were funny without a talent or something like that, It's like
That's
backhanded compliment, but
yeah.
oh my gosh. So we've learned how you write. Well, we've learned something about how you write jokes, but you had a mentor, right? There was a guru of comedy. I never heard of this guy before, but you said he was he wrote an encyclopedia. What is his name?
His name was Billy Gleason, and he had been a vaudeville comedian.
Yeah.
And he had amassed books and books and books of jokes that he turned into an encyclopedia of jokes. And he sold them to some of the biggest comedians in the world. I'm talking about Johnny Carson. I'm talking about Jack Carter. I'm talking about Flip Wilson.
Really?
I'm talking about, Milton Berle, Bob Hope, major comedians. And here I was, an 18-year-old kid who wanted to be a comedian. I went to New York and I met him. And I took every penny I had, $3,000, and I bought that encyclopedia.
Oh.
And I just started memorizing. started memory.
Wow.
And the thing is, he taught me lessons that at the time, I was a snot-nosed kid. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this is an old guy. What does he know?
Yeah.
And 20 years later, every lesson he told me came true. He knew what he did. He knew his stuff because there are certain things about comedy that are timeless and universal. Okay? And they're all in the book. And he was
It's
just, he
amazing. Is
was,
this encyclopedia still available to people, do you think?
no.
No.
There were only 26 copies ever made. Wow. I have one. Most of them are gone. And I'm sure the one I have is worth a fortune.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to buy me a yacht, I'll sell
Man.
it to them.
I Googled
But
around for it and I couldn't find it, but I saw talk of it. It's like, and can you say his name again? Because Vernus is asking.
yeah, Billy Gleason, Glason. And a matter of fact, if you go on YouTube, 2 of the volumes are for sale by somebody else for $1,600.
Oh.
And I have 30 volumes. So
whoa, it's 30 volumes?
Yeah.
You said 30?
Yeah.
It is
30,
an encyclopedia.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Wow, that's incredible. What an incredible story. All right.
With lots of audience participation.
Louise is going to make the gestures, I'm going to do the words. Here it is, Louise and I, little Hawaiian story. Ready, Louise? Here we go. Once upon a time, upon a time. Okay, she's got it now. Get back inside, Louise. Here we go. Little Hawaiian story, Louise and I. Once upon a time, very good. Once upon a time, there was a little Hawaiian boy. Little.
With lots of audience
great.
participation.
I love that. I love that. So that's from your, like a reel that you use, I think, for corporate events, right?
Yeah. And it's funny. Over the years, in my act, I bring between 3 and 5 people on stage with me to have fun with. And so I figured out that over 7,000 shows, I brought over 20,000 people on stage with me.
Incredible.
And, and you can tell them a joke, but when you bring them on stage, that's something they never forget. I've had people come when I was doing the Poconos, and they said, we've seen you 8 times, and we've seen you do the same routine, the Hawaiian routine, with 8 different people, and it's never the same. And it's never the same because they always screw up different. And that makes it fun for me because I'm not doing something rote. I'm on my toes, and I never know what they're going to say or do. And I've had people come up to me and say, I did the Hawaiian thing with you last time. Can I please do it again? I really want to do it again. And I'm like, okay. But it's fun to interact with people. For comedians out there.
Yeah.
There was a line in the circus movie Jumbo with Jimmy Durante. And Jimmy Durante, at the end of a circus performance, says to his daughter, who was played by Doris Day, he said, tomorrow we're going to pack up the tent and we're going to be 100 miles away from here. But those people will remember what we did all year. That's kind of a nice thing to do for people. And comedians are the same way. I once heard, and it's true, people will forget what you said, People will forget what you did, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, that's great. What do you have a poster of Mr. Saturday Night behind you, and you had
Yeah.
said that you went to see it and you were like, I don't think I'm going to like this because if it's anything like these previous stand-up comedian movies, they're just so dark and dismal, and you went to see this and now you have a poster on your wall.
Oh, yeah.
What
And by the
was it
way,
about that movie? Yeah.
aside from the movie, which was a fantastic movie and I loved it. And the reason I loved it, and I'll tell you why I loved it,
Yeah.
it wasn't just a movie about a comedian. It was a movie about people. It was a movie about hugs. As a comedian, he talked about the hugs that his mother gave him. And his wife said, you know, when the audience laughs, they're giving you a hug. It was a movie about hugs.
Wow.
Now watch the movie, but then if you are on Amazon Prime and I think Broadway HD,
Hmm.
they 40 years later made a Broadway musical
Yes.
out of Mr. Saturday
Heard
Night.
that. Yeah.
And I was worried about that. I'm like, you know, is it
Yeah.
going to be cheesy?
Yeah.
It's even better.
Really?
It's
And that Billy Crystal stars in that too, huh?
Yeah, it's even better. It's it's the story of every comedian's life, but it's also the story about human beings and their feelings and the things that make life worthwhile. And it's a story of angst,
Hmm.
which every comedian feels,
Yeah.
and it's a story of ambition, which every comedian feels. And I don't know if any of your viewers or listeners have watched all of the episodes of Mrs. Maisel,
Hmm. Hmm.
but there is one episode where her child is in an exclusive school and they have them in lunchroom in different tables. One are kids who are very into math and they're doing math problems,
Hmm.
and one are kids who are very into construction and they're doing
Bulldozing.
yeah,
Building Legos.
building. They're building
Legos.
things,
Yeah.
okay? And one is a reading table. They love to read and they're all reading. And then there's one table of kids who are just goofing around. They go, bah, 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 bah. And the father says, what are they doing? She said, oh, that's the happy table. And your son is at the happy table. And the father is like, what? Why can't he be at the reading table? Why can't he be at the math table? And they're like, no, he's the happiest kid in the school. And that's the thing. People don't think happiness is important. They think it's more important to be regimented. And no, 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 no. I would rather be at the happy table any day of the week. Put me at the happy table.
Wow. You know, this has been an hour of being at the happy table with you. And I think we're going to have to end the interview now. But it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show, Tommy, and such a pleasure to read this book, PhD in Happiness, because, you know, when I first saw it, I thought it was going to just tell me about each comedian. But each comedian is a chapter. There's sometimes several comedians, and it's not about the comedian per se, although it's related to the comedian, but it's about happiness, like you say. It is really just a PhD in happiness. Anyone can read this, and it'll
Let
make
me
them
leave you.
happier. Yeah.
Let me leave you with one thing. Okay, it's
Yeah.
what I say at the end of my show. I say tonight we had some music, and we had some magic, and we had some laughter. If you remember nothing else, please remember this. There's more music in the fact that the waves lap up on the shore than in all the songs ever sung. There's more magic in the fact that the stars light up the sky than in all the tricks ever invented. And there's more laughter in the funny, silly things we do every day than in all the jokes ever told. Learn to listen for the music, learn to look for the magic, learn to hear the laughter, and every day you'll have a ticket to the greatest show on earth, your life. God bless you.
All right, now it's time to dance. Thank you so much for that. All right, dance time. Richard Gadas.
When you're smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world it smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain. So stop that crying, be happy again. When you're smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're smiling, when you're smiling, the whole world it smiles with you. When you're laughing, oh baby, when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain. So stop that crying, be happy again. When you're smiling, when you're smiling, baby, the whole world smiles with you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Tommy, for being on the show. Thank you, Richard Gaddis.
See you soon.